So I do talk with myself in the past tense, and I try not to insert myself. It's time travel for me. I have to time travel to where I was. And then if I'm going to bring in any current perspective, that really is in the sort of like end of the chapter wrap up portion. And then I can carry it forward as I keep writing. But toward the end of the chapter, I can be like, now I know X. I mean, it's not those words all the time, but I try to have the reader with me in that moment as much as I can and not shake them around in time because it's so important, I think, to like keep them there. So when you are a child, you are a child. You're not time traveling within the piece. I think that's really crucial. Or if you are, it has to be fluid. It can. I mean, if you can find a way around it, great. I could never find a way around it. Or you can
Yeah.
bookmark or you can bookend. Just like I think the elegance helps. Like if you start at the beginning of like being from like your adult voice and then tell a story about when you were little and end in your adult voice, that's another elegant way to do it. But I think like it's really crucial not to interrupt or fracture that your sort of like child self because that is your like great foundational like to who you are. Um, there are certainly ways to do it, but it's more, I think, I know what you're talking about. It's a little hard because,
Yeah.
but you're also your adult self, like, I think overcorrects by like rationalizing so much of your child's behavior. And I think like let the child fill the space.
Well,
You
for me, because in some cases there was so little
Mhm.
information available at the time,
Mhm.
the present self is the adult self interviewing my father like for
Yeah.
40 or 50 hours with
Yeah.
with his consent. And he's a historian, so he was very up for it. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how that all works temporally, but also knowledge. And it's not like I come in and say, oh, and blah, 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 and he didn't really do that. Like, that's not the adult voice. The
Yeah.
adult is also questioning. But I think I have particular craft issues and, I have some resources. So like, I really appreciate your answer and thinking about it with me in the group. And I don't need it, I'm okay with it
Sure.
not being
I guess
resolved.
I guess my answer to that is like the simple like find the simplest way you can be both, don't get in the way of the child's story, but then like in context. Like make sure the context goes in the right place. But I hear it. I hear what you're saying. That's tricky. There's a whole story I tell in my memoir about this very very traumatic story about when I was little and this like horrible breakup with a friend. And I tell the whole story, and you're right there with me, and everyone's devastated. And then at the end of it, my parents are like, "Oh no, that didn't happen." They're like, "Sorry, it didn't happen like that."
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, "What?"
I mean, I've been exposed to some people that use unusual structures
Yeah.
as writers. And so, I mean, through whatever workshops or stuff. And I think that I'm trying to make it very lucid and
Yeah.
comprehensible. I also think I may have to be inventive.
Yeah, probably. I
Like,
mean,
I
and
don't know.
the funny thing about your life is that there's so much material, right? There's volumes and volumes and volumes of material. So it's about like picking and arranging it in a way that makes sense to you. I think we can probably do like one more question. What do you guys think? And then I have to go pick up the children. Okay, Jill, what to do when writing about people who are deceased and can't speak for themselves? I mean, that's a rough one. I mean, I wrote about my grandparents, but I was very pleasant about it all. I think it depends on your relationship with them. That's more of an internal struggle, I think. Um, if they were awful to you, maybe people need to know that they were awful to you. If they were like otherwise, decent human beings to you and had a couple flaws, do we need to say that like he smoked a little too much? I don't know. Like it sort of depends. It's such a spectrum. Um, and then again, like you are kind of presenting facts. So I wonder if you can present them through stories, through other people. I wonder if you can bring in some voices. some reportage from like other people in your family. So like they're telling the stories. It's not you making judgment calls. You know, that's one delicate way about it. There was this total loon in my family who I was like, well, how am I gonna tell this story without embarrassing everybody? And then I just had my mom tell the story. And I wrote down a story for my mom. And I was like, okay, well, that's the way around it is like, well, my mother told me the story. And then I just wrote down the quotes. And it's just, everyone's fine with it now because now it's a hilarious story. It's not me being like, check her out. So there are creative ways there are creative ways to tell stories about people without embarrassing them, I think.